welcome to Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. This is the Sacramento Report, and I'm Steve Swat. My guest this segment is Mike Feuer, who's a member of the State Assembly from, Griffith Park and parts of the San Fernando Valley all the way west through Beverly Hills. Thanks for being with us.
It's great to be here.
I know one of your favorite pieces of legislation is to really sort of open up to try to boost the voting participation in California with same-day voter registration, so people can, obviously register and vote on the same day. That measure was before the voters back in 2000 and was defeated, but you're moving legislatively.
Right, with a bill that has some different features than the previous initiative did. Let's put this in some context for a moment if we could. Nationwide, there are some states, Pennsylvania, Florida among them, which are moving to restrict voter participation. Here in California, we have the chance to do just the opposite. We saw in our most recent election, we have a real desperate need to expand voter involvement in our elections. Turnouts have been very low. But in states that have allowed voters to register on the same day as the election or within the last 2 weeks before the election, there are much higher rates of voter participation. We could do that here. And as a campaigner, I know that voters often get engaged in the last couple weeks of a campaign. That's when campaigns tend to devote the most resources in the electoral process. So we ought to be able to get those voters who are suddenly inspired to come to the polls. It's great for democracy because it holds elected officials much more accountable when more voters come to the polls. And I think that in California, we should be leading the way to show the nation what it means to want to infuse more people into the electoral process.
There's a counter argument, though, that goes that those who have not registered to vote a couple weeks or months ahead of time really don't have that much commitment to the process, and therefore they're registering to vote on the last day or on election day, and perhaps that could open the door for some voter fraud. Well,
the voter fraud argument is frequently raised, and I'm glad you brought it up. Nationwide, in states that have same-day voter registration, there's almost no incidence of voter fraud at all. But more than that, in my bill, we've taken steps, notwithstanding the fact that it's very unlikely there'll be voter fraud, to counteract it. For example, my bill only takes effect once a system called VoteCal is put in place here in California. VoteCal enables election officials on the day of the election to immediately determine, has that voter voted elsewhere? Are they registered someplace else? And there are also tough penalties, tougher than ever before, for a voter who engages in voter fraud, which is why this bill is almost to the finish line here in Sacramento, where previous measures without those protections have failed.
All right. We only have about a minute left. I do want to touch on this one measure that you were involved with that pours in, up to $40 million? Billion dollars in transportation funding for Los Angeles.
Yes. So a couple of years ago, I wrote a measure that authorized Los Angeles voters to take up what was called Measure R. They did. And 2/3 of LA voters voted to have a minor increase in sales tax for 30 years, and that creates a $40 billion revenue stream to transform Los Angeles' transportation system. This year, I have a measure that would allow the voters to extend the length of time of that tax change, because by doing so, they can bond against that future revenue and build these projects as soon as 10 years from now. Think how Los Angeles could be transformed if in 10 years we had a subway and light rail and other projects, and just the jobs from this measure would reduce the state's unemployment rate statewide by more than a point. Huge success. Looking forward to that bill passing and the voters voting for it.
Okay, that sounds great. And that would be a nice legacy for you as you leave the State Assembly, term limited out, so that would be great for you.
It'd be great for all of us.
All right, Mike Feuer, thanks for coming by and talking about these important issues.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate it. Thanks also to our viewers for watching Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. A reminder, you can see this and other interviews on My Government on Demand, also on YouTube. I'm Steve Swat. Have a great day.